Who Decides War is a fairly new brand already oozing with fashion industry buzz. But how did the brand get to this point in just 3 years when hundreds, if not thousands, of other brands have never been able to reach this level? Who Decides War was founded in 2019 as a partnership between finance and design partner Tela and Everard Best, also known as Bravado, who is the creative head of the brand. However, that's technically not the start of the company. They have a bit of a hectic history actually, having been rebranded several times in the past. Everard, in the very beginning without Tela, began designing around 2012 to 2013. The date is not completely clear and literally nothing from this time is online, but I believe it was while he was still at high school in 2014 with new co-owner Davin Gentry that the brand was coined as Lease on Life Society. The brand began producing t-shirts like these, but even as they developed into collections, it has yet to develop any of the same visual elements we know from Who Decides War. The only elements that have stuck from this era are 1. The religious inspiration that, to be honest, I don't really see in these clothes myself, but he states in this interview that he wants people to experience the glory of God through his clothing. And 2. Deconstruction, which during the Lease on Life Society days was infused along a more formal minimal aesthetic, similar to what Telfar was doing in New York. However, despite the clothes being impeccably made, mostly from the help of Everard's father, who is actually a tailor, these collections weren't particularly well selling. Effectively, the brand wasn't really pushing anything in order to be buzzworthy or desirable yet. And even Ev himself, on several occasions, has admitted that he doesn't actually like the fashion at this point and is only making clothes to sell, so it's no wonder really that it wasn't successful. Then, in September 2015, the brand would go through their very first rebranding, this time to begin a namesake brand, Bravado. Though Ev himself was going by the name Murder Bravado at the time, which he is still known as on Instagram. Their first collection under this name was Spring-Summer 16, called Identity Crisis. Aptly named considering they were in the midst of a rebranding, but it was not successful as a collection. They did have retailing on their own website, but outside of that, not one stockist picked up the collection. Having learnt this as a harsh lesson, Ev decided the key to success was going to be media attention, and so knew to take a heavy risk with the marketing of the Autumn-Winter 16 collection, naming it Make America Suck Again, right as the American 2016 presidential elections were all over the media, drawing a huge amount of media attention. The 6-piece collection were riddled with political imagery such as the Grim Reaper cloaked in an American flag, a skeletal eagle, and slogans that read "Make America KKK Suck Again" and "God Bless America." This is really the first collection where elements that have come to define the brand are really visually represented. Distressing, embroidery, applique, denim, and intense Americana, which as Everard relates to Vogue is Americana redefined through the lens of people of colour, and then is further explained with high snobiety as not to make America as a nation suck again, but to make America KKK suck again. The satirical take on Trump was both relevant and popular in fashion at the time, so when combined with the almost dystopian aesthetic of the brand, it seriously caught the attention of the fashion media, as well as making it noticed by Demna Gvasalia. According to the Evening Standard, Demna then took the label under his wing around this time and even tried to promote the label by allowing him to make denim pieces for the Vetements Spring-Summer 19 collection, as well as having nepotism model Gabrielle Kane Day-Lewis sport this baby pink hoodie at the Vetements Spring-Summer 17 show, which was also then reported on by Vogue. Under Demna, the label did evolve really well too. They went from the slim and fitted silhouette that was likely from his tailoring father to a baggier style over the next few collections, and it's really here you can see the brand image come to life. Furthermore, the brand this time actually was clothing he himself wanted to wear instead of what he thought would sell. It still wasn't divisive enough to catch serious media attention, but this label really never would be, so they decided to rebrand once again, this time splitting the brand into 2, the first being the brand that we know today, Who Decides War, bringing his girlfriend Tela to handle the financial side of the business as well as helping design. And the second being a women's wear line called Against the World, which launched in Autumn-Winter 18. This technically was its own business, but up until this point, Who Decides War didn't have a women's wear offering, so this filled the gap in their product line. Realistically, I think it was more of a test to see if they could reinvent the Bravado brand to be more of this aesthetic. which ultimately they did not do, and the only element from this that actually did make a comeback was the font used on some of the jackets. So the brand only lasted the one season, only showing in Capsule, which is a trade show in New York, and the pair went back to focusing on their newly rebranded Who Decides War. Who Decides War's debut collection was for the Spring-Summer 2020 collection named Fall from Grace, and it was a smash hit. The collection itself was interestingly presented, with models spray painting the clothes with a Mr. Dr. Bravado stencil, as well as the now signature crossed out 666 logo, which of course ties into their overly Christian branding, but this time in a more DIY style, which was something new to the brand. The Paris show was visited by his mentors, Heron Preston and Virgil Abloh, as well as a host of other fashion insiders, meaning that the media was much more likely to report on this collection itself. I think he was fortunate for this, because of how the brand had just been explained before by Ev as just a method for which he personally wanted to be successful. I think having the co-sign of Heron and Virgil show up for the debut validated the label as a genuine expression of his creativity, more than just a way to make money. Plus, they helped him get stockists even before the collection was shown, like pop-ups in Neiman Marcus, as well as quite a lot of press both before and after the collection was shown. I think it's important to note too that Ev seems to have had some kind of media training by this point, because his quotes to interviewers are much more inclusive in regards to the brand. By this I of course mean when he said he didn't like his own brand's clothing, but also in relation to religion. We all know topics like religion and politics can be difficult in business situations, as it potentially can negatively impact sales. A good example of this is when Balenciaga did the Bernie Sanders logo, and they had to backtrack, saying it wasn't meant to be Bernie Sanders promotion at all, in order to keep their buyers and customers happy. As Everard himself has noted, having religion tied to any brand can be tricky for expansion, as many customers, for whatever reason, may feel alienated by the way that it's presented, especially when looking at a more worldwide expansion. So having the narrative change from being he wants people to experience the glory of God through his clothing to now celebrating something that is good about the world is very smart. The imagery itself doesn't necessarily need to change when the context or the narrative in which it sits is changed. I think this is an incredibly clever way of being more welcoming to all, while not needing to veer away from something that obviously means so much to Ev. It's almost like a win-win scenario. And it is objectively a great collection. From the lookbook we can see the silhouettes more clearly, and they are both more interesting and commercial as well, gaining at least a couple more stockists worldwide. Autumn-Winter 2020 was also very successful, especially commercially. Unfortunately, it is my least favourite collection of theirs. I really don't understand the set and how that ties into the religious brand ethos. To me it reads more like Squidward going to the future than the title of the show, Fall from Grace. Other than this skeletal hand reaching to God's hand on this jumper, I really don't see the connection whatsoever. Ultimately, I think it makes the brand look a little unsure of itself, but it's natural, it's quite a new brand. And really, that is very shortly lived, because in Spring-Summer 2021 is where the brand goes hard on deconstruction, and you can really start to see the brand image being perfected in this collection, more than anything before it. But something that I find absolutely fascinating about this collection is the development of sound. The brand nearly always has a video for a collection, and we've seen several throughout this breakdown. Each of these videos before have used white noise, with the only exception being Autumn-Winter 2020, which is likely just because it was sponsored by Tidal, which is a music streaming company. The white noise has been a really great way of world building for the experiential aspect of the brand, and now that it is rebranded as Who Decides War, it seems to fit even better than before, almost feeling like the calm before the storm, or in this case, war. The Spring-Summer 21 collection is the first, I believe, to develop on this white noise audio concept. In this video, we can actually hear birdsong, pairing that with a newly developed heavy distressing of garments, and it feels like this collection is meant to be representative of the peace that comes in the wake of a war. In all honesty, I don't know for certain that that was the intent of the sound choice, and perhaps I'm reading too much into the presentation, especially because Ev has explicitly said the collection is based on the need to escape to serenity in a central place of peaceful disposition and wonderment, specifically referencing Kings 19:11-13, which is also the inspiration for the collection titled A Still Small Voice. The collection was probably the brand's biggest hit up until this point. I feel like this is where the brand begins to perfect an intellectuality to it that's been coming because of the influence from Demna, but hadn't quite reached the point where it's visible to onlookers like it is with the Spring/Summer 2021 collection. There's a quote read by Joey Badass in the video which goes, "Who decides war if neither side is wrong? Whose world can this be if none of us are wrong?" Which is really a spellbinding way of expressing this new aspect to the brand. And really, the video as a whole is a great way of introducing this new intellectuality to the brand, and it has been very successful. The brand has more media attention than ever before, and the stockists worldwide have really just exploded. From here, it was a quick incline for the brand. Despite the fact they didn't have an Autumn/Winter 21 collection so that they could soul search for the direction of the brand, the amount of celebrities now showing up wearing Who Decides War in both their available collections skyrocketed. So we have people like Billie Eilish in Autumn/Winter 2020 for GQ, Kalani in Spring/Summer 2020 for Spin Magazine, Coi Leray in the American Jumper from Spring/Summer 2020, Kid Cudi in Autumn/Winter 2020 for the cover of Wonderland magazine, and just so many more. Mostly it seems from these endorsements that the best-selling product has been denim, which ultimately has seemed to be the inspiration the brand needed before the Spring/Summer 2022 catwalk. Spring/Summer 2022 was said to be yet another rebirth of the brand. I think this is their fourth collection based around rebirth throughout all of their rebrandings, which at this point, at least for me, is getting a bit tired, but this was their most successful rebirth to date, even being covered by Vogue. I honestly don't really like this collection that much. I think it's fine. It definitely pulls back their Americana theme with the same flag jumper that we've seen I think in every collection since the previous rebranding in Spring/Summer 2020. The deconstructed aesthetic, the distressed denim, the slits in the front two panels of shirts or jackets. So many of the brand's key signatures are here. Even repeats of old garments are in this collection. But at the time, when I was told this was a rebirth of the brand, I was left confused because I see no rebirth in this collection. Really, the only thing that is quite new is this orange dress, which is the final look. And it is a great dress, but where does this fit in with the other garments of this collection? I feel like this doesn't relate to the brand at all, really. It doesn't relate to the collection at all, and it's just kind of randomly stuck on at the end. It's literally not even a colour used in the rest of the pieces. It's not part of the colour story, it's not part of the silhouettes known for the brand. It at least could have been in pink to match this jumper that would have fit in a little better, or even in an olive colour which is used throughout the collection, but no. It's probably just in there because this was the first collection with an official women's wear offering after the brand partnered with Alice and Olivia, but still, it does not fit in with the collection. In my opinion, this is the worst rebirth that the brand has gone through, despite it being the most commercially successful. I think the following collection is a much more successful shift in the brand's message than this one. So, in complete contrast with the previous collection, I have nothing but good things to say about the Autumn/Winter 2022 collection, for which the brand has now taken on a much darker twist. Obviously, this is done through the lighting choice as you can see, but it's also done with the setting being inspired by the macabre ending to Romeo and Juliet. I actually really genuinely like this tone for the brand. I think it works very well with their overtly religious imagery and deconstructed aesthetic. In Christianity, God is often represented as peace and order, while the devil is more chaotic and dark. So I think showing his God-affirming ethos within the dark space is an interesting mood for the clothing, which may be read as seeing good in any situation, or even in dark times keeping your God with you. What I like about this is that the collection is easily intellectualized in this way, much more so than the white purity aesthetic that he had used before in most of his collections. I know this collection was inspired by the people that Bravado had lost on the way to get to this point, most notably Virgil Abloh, who died shortly after the Spring/Summer 2022 show on November 28, 2021, these people being represented as angels in the collection, with the final look literally characterizing the model as an angel. But this darker, more somber aesthetic ties so well into the brand's Christian imagery that allowed it to be even more well received than anything they produced before. It's really no wonder that this collection really gained the brand a lot of respect from the fashion industry because of this, and is certainly the most interesting iteration of the brand's discombobulated history. Honestly, after researching for this video, I found myself a little lost as to where I stood in relation to the brand. I really do enjoy their retail offerings and I like the individual pieces. I absolutely love the presentations, both video and catwalk. Even if I didn't like the collection as a whole and didn't feel like it fit in with the brand's ongoing narrative, I always liked the presentation. I'm really hung up on those early interviews of his where he admitted to not liking the clothing that his brand was making and only making what would sell. It made the brand lose validity in my eyes and made me think that this is someone who, if it didn't work out, he wouldn't really care. I made this video because I like the brand as a whole, and I wanted to explore what made them able to create such interesting garments, but knowing this made me doubt if he even likes his brand today, or if it's just a way to dupe us out of the substantial amount of money that it costs to buy any of their pieces. So naturally, when Spring-Summer 2023 showed just an hour ago, I thought the Spring-Summer 23 collection was actually pretty good. I like the color scheme and I like this big dress that's in the middle. It kind of reminds me of the Holy Ghost, although I'm sure that's the wrong reference. I enjoy the development on distressed denim and embroidery again, which realistically is probably the best thing for the brand. They need to build that foundation on which to grow the brand sustainably, which they haven't really done yet, but is a necessity for any brand's longevity. All in all, I'm very glad this Spring-Summer 23 collection didn't push too many boundaries for the brand, and I hope the Autumn-Winter 23 collection won't either, just in the hopes that the brand is able to stick around for a bit longer and grow its now small business into something substantial. Despite how I admitted to being unsure of where I stood with the brand, I would like to see them improve and grow. I'm well aware that this iteration of the brand is only 3 years old now, starting in 2019, so I do want to allow them time to grow into a very strong brand that they clearly can become. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you do want to see more videos like this one, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell to be notified of future videos. And check out Sakai, JW Anderson and Vivian Westwood here.